Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have a special review. This is review number 800, so as I always do with these landmark reviews, I want to give a huge thank you to you guys who are watching the video. Whether you've liked, subscribed, shared, or whatever you've done for the channel, a huge thank you. It's really cool to see something that I started as a hobby grow and become quite popular. So for all your support over the last 3 years, a huge thank you. I've got 1,000 subscribers now, and that's something I never thought I'd have. So thank you to all of you watching the channel. As you might have guessed from the change in background, if you've been following the Facebook page of the channel, I'm actually in Osaka in Japan just now. So we're going to do review number 800 today, and we've got a special beer for this one. This was a beer I bought quite a little while ago actually, and it's half Canadian and half Japanese. So we're going to have a look at Isseki Nichou today, which is a collaboration brew between Dieu du Ciel from Saint Jerome in Quebec in Canada and Tamamura Honten Shiga Kogen beer, who are from Nagano prefecture here in Japan. So this one should be pretty awesome. An Imperial Dark Saison, and it comes in at 9.5%, rated at 98 on Rate Beer and similar on Beer Advocate. So this should be a pretty damn awesome beer. I tried this one in Brewdog's original bar in Aberdeen, I think back in 2011 or 2012, and it was a pretty damn awesome beer. So really looking forward to trying this one, and I hope you guys enjoy the review. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites for both Tamamura Honten Shiga Kogen and Dieu du Ciel, so make sure you check those out. The links to my other reviews that I've done from both of these breweries before. There's all the usual social media, and if you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. To those of you in Canada and in Japan, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review, and I hope you guys enjoy the Japanese beer reviews that will be coming up over the next little while. So for this video, let's start with Dieu du Ciel. So Dieu du Ciel started as a brew pub in Saint Jerome in Quebec with Jean-Francois Gravel at the helm, and apparently he has no formal training in brewing, and he learned to brew beer simply through home brewing trial and error, if you like. But Jean-Francois came up with the name in 1993 to describe his home brewed beers, and it translates literally into English as God in heaven, but essentially it's the sort of francophone equivalent of saying oh my god. But apparently there's a certain boldness in the name of the brewery because the Quebecois culture, if you like, was dominated for a while by religion and the clergy and traditional Belgian style brewing as well. So that's a kind of reference with the name. It's meant to be kind of bold and out there. But the craft beer scene has been expanding in Canada over the past few years, and Quebec has actually been performing very well in this area. So Dieu du Ciel opened in 1998, and they've brewed a large assortment of over 70 different types of beer, and their first brew pub is in Montreal and has 15 beers on tap at any one time, and apparently there's also an apartment above the brew pub that visitors can rent, and there's also now a second brew pub at the brewery itself in Saint Jerome. So that's a bit about Dieu du Ciel. If you find yourself in the Montreal area in Quebec in Canada, do go and check them out. These guys produce some awesome stuff, and they're probably the most widely available Quebecois and Canadian brewery abroad these days, so do check them out. So to tell you a little bit about Shiga Kogen and Tamamura Honten. So Tamamura Honten is a company based in Yamanouchi in Nagano prefecture in Japan. You're talking a few hundred kilometers to the northwest of Tokyo, and this area is particularly well known for its ski slopes and for its hot springs. But the Tamamura Honten company began brewing sake in 1805, and recently they began brewing beer under the name Shiga Kogen beer, and they also produce wine as well. This is quite common in Japan, that sake breweries and distilleries start brewing craft beer. That's where many of the new kind of wave of Japanese craft brewers start. But the head brewer at the brewery is Sato Eigo, who joined the company in 2003, and the idea to brew beer came when the number of skiers visiting the resort began to dwindle, so they wanted to get their number of customers up. So in May 2004 they applied for their brewing license, and they received it 4 months later, and they actually bought their brewing equipment and trained for only a week at a brewery in Kyushu before they started their own commercial activities. And during this period they had only a consultant for help, and if you've tried any of their beers, you'll see that it's actually very impressive how well they're doing on the basis of their startup. Tamamura Honten produce their own hops, sake, rice, barley, buckwheat and blueberries as well, and they also have their own hop variety which is called Shinzu Wazi, which I believe is actually in this beer, and this one is a hybrid between a Czech Sats hop and a local variety, and they originally used it as a bittering hop for lagers, but they also now use it as an aroma hop for their beers too. And the brewery are also own 2 tasting rooms known as Tepper rooms, and one of these is at the brewery and the other one is at the Shiga Kogen Ichinose Hotel's Chalet Shiga. So if you do find yourself in Tokyo and you want to do a little bit of skiing, head up to Nagano and go and visit these guys. Tamamura Honten are one of the better known craft breweries from Japan, and I think we'll start seeing these guys exporting fairly soon. So that's your little bit about both the breweries. As I always say, if you want to read more about them, do go and check out the brewery websites in the description below. So let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So this one, as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, is a 9.5% Imperial Dark Saison. It's the malt base of this one apparently is that of an Imperial Stout, and the beer is hopped by hops grown by Shiga Kogen themselves. So I guess that Ichinose Wazi hop is in there as well, and the yeast strain is a Saison yeast, and it was first brewed in 2009 and now it's released every October as a seasonal brew. And Isseki Nichou actually literally translates from Japanese. It means to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so I guess that's what they're doing with the style and also the fact that it's a collaboration brew as well. So it's quite a clever name actually, this one. But yeah, so I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. So as you can see, I really like the artwork on this one, and as I always do with my kind of landmark beer reviews, I will be keeping the bottle for this one, but you can see it's got the nice kind of Japanese sort of samurai guy on it, and the little bird there, obviously a reference to the name of the beer itself, and you can see the Dieu du Ciel angel on the bottle cap there. I think this one is a twist bottle cap here, and yeah, so let's see if we can get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. Now, I think that's not going to come off, so I'll just have to take it off the old-fashioned way. Yeah, there we are. So, as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. You'll see on Rate Beer as well, and I think it's on the bottle here, that the O at the end of this beer, on the name, it has a little line across it, and that means that it's kind of an OU sound that you give when you pronounce it. That's one of the things with Japanese romaji, and it's quite difficult to translate because Japanese romaji is different depending on what your accent are. The American version of the romaji is different from the Scottish, Irish, English version of romaji, and I guess for Australia and New Zealand it's also different, but you kind of have an OU sound with this one, so it's Isseki Nichou, I guess you would say, for this one. So yeah, quite cool actually, and Japanese is a very interesting language, and I'm learning it of course because my girlfriend Michiko is from here. So yeah, as you can see, this beer has poured a beautiful kind of, it looks just like an Imperial Stout, a nice dark brown, almost chestnutty colour on this one. It looks really, really nice. You can see a solid finger and a half of a frothy beigey brown head on this one. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the palate there. There's no transparency to this beer, you can see, just because of how dark it is. It looks absolutely lovely, and it smells nice too. You can smell some of the chocolate and the roasted malts off this one as you open up. I think I've bought this beer maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It has been aging for quite a little bit. I bought it in the Aberdeen Brewdog bar when they first got some of the Dieu du Ciel beers, and I tried it on tap too, and it was beautiful. So yeah, it looks very, very nice. So let's have a look at the aroma properly. Oh yeah, that smells really, really nice actually. That's a beautiful, beautiful beer. So you can smell the nice bready yeast in this one. There's some really rich kind of chocolatey notes going on in this beer. It looks and smells absolutely beautiful. Yeah, so there's some nice dark roasted malt under there, a lot of sweet chocolate. You can smell some roasted caramel actually as well, but the big bready and yeasty notes are really coming out on this one. There's a bit of spicy character in there too, almost a little bit of cinnamon actually, and you can really smell that coming out in this beer. It smells absolutely beautiful. Oh yeah, that's nice. You can get a good bit of earthy hop, and there's a little bit of grassiness coming out of this too, but because the beer is aged a little bit, 2 or 3 years, then that will be a little bit different. At 9.5%, you can afford to do that with these beers. But it smells absolutely lovely. So if you get the chance to try this beer, maybe buy a couple of them and try aging them and see how you get on. But when it was fresh, I can remember roughly how it tasted when it was fresh. I'm very interested to see how the malt base is kind of expanded in this one as it's aged. But as I say, a big roasted malt base, and there's a lot of sweet chocolate, kind of dark sweet chocolate on this one. Some nice toasted caramel, a big bready yeasty character. Almost has, when you smell it when it's aged, it almost has a little bit of a kind of meaty note to it, but there's a big kind of woody and nutty character coming off this beer as well. Some spiciness in the yeast and a good bit of earthy and grassy hop character in it as well. So yeah, it smells absolutely lovely. So let's get this guy tried then. So this is the Isseki Nichou, a collaboration brew between Dieu du Ciel from Saint Jerome in Quebec in Canada and the Tamamura Honten Shiga Kogen beer from Nagano in Japan. Kampai, Slanja, thank you for all your support, over 800 reviews. Cheers. Oh yeah, that is an absolutely beautiful beer. It tastes a little bit different. It's not quite as smooth in the bottle as it was when I had it on tap actually, but that's to be expected. But it's really, really nice. That's nice. I guess you can taste a little bit more with this one. The stout characteristics obviously begin to dominate the palate in this, but you can get some of that nice Saison character in this beer. It's really, really nice. It's so rich on the palate. That's the first thing you're going to notice about this one, and you can taste a little bit of the booziness in it as well. Really, really nicely done beer, this. Yeah, really, really rich. There's none of that meatiness that I was picking up in the aroma at all. You do get this kind of unusual meaty character to the nose, but that's definitely not in the flavour of this one. So in the middle of your palate, you've got some really interesting things going on. There's a bit of a bready character to the malt base. It's a really nice kind of it's a very nice dark kind of yeasty character in there. There's some biscuity elements to it as well, but there's a lot of dark roasted malt just on top of that. The bready base and the thicker yeastiness is there. The roasted kind of black malt or sort of coffee elements are just sitting on top of that one. Then there's the sweet chocolate and a little bit of the toasted caramel in the middle of the palate there. It's really, really nice, but the malt base for the most part in the middle of the palate is quite dark. I remember it being a little bit more sweet when I first tried it on tap actually, so maybe the younger versions of this are a little bit sweeter. But yeah, that's a beautiful beer. You can taste some of the boozy character on this. And just behind the front curve of the tongue, you do get a little tiny bit of red fruity ester, which is always a characteristic of some of these bigger kind of imperial stout beers that you get, but you can detect some of the kind of saison-y characters of this beer coming out as well. And it's unusual because you can still detect a little bit of that kind of citrusy sharpness that you would always associate with a saison beer. You can feel that mixing with some of these red fruity esters just behind the front curve of the tongue. But if you go out to the sides of the palate, at the very back corner, there's a big earthiness to this beer, and from an imperial stout, that's exactly what you'd expect. As you come further forward, that smooths out and you get a little bit more of a smoother earthiness. It actually feels a little bit grassy as you go around the front part of the palate, and again, that is part of the kind of saison style of beer that they've put in this one. And maybe there's a little bit of a kind of floral aromaticity to this one, but that's quite minimal. I'd say it's the earthiness that's dominating the hop side of this thing. When it's a darker beer, that's exactly what you'd expect, I would say. But it's very, very nice. The flavours in this one go together really well. It does have a good bit of alcohol warmth to it as well, which suits the kind of flavour that you're expecting from this beer. In the middle of the palate too, you get a little bit of a slightly woody or nutty note, but that's very, very fine. It's the dark roasted malts are what are dominating the palate in this one for me. But once you start to progress into the aftertaste, you can detect just a little bit of that kind of nutty slightly woody character in this one. There's a little bit of spiciness too comes out in the aftertaste. Not quite cinnamon, but just a little bit of a spicy character from the yeast, and that mixes well with these sort of earthy flavours that are in the back corners of the palate. But overall, you can't say much more about this other than it's a very, very, very good beer. It's awesome. Really, really good. One of the best kind of stout beers I've reviewed on the channel, actually, and it's always cool when you get some of these hybrid beers going on. And to be honest, when you've got Dieu du Ciel involved in this beer, and then you've also got Tamamura Honten Shiga Kogen, these guys are both very, very good breweries, so if they collaborate on something, you would expect absolutely nothing less. The thing I would point out, as I said with this one, is that the flavour, I think it's a bit sweeter when it's younger, whereas obviously when this one ages a bit, the more roasted and imperial stout things start to come out, but you can still detect elements of the Saison, a little bit of that citrus, some of the grassier aspects, and of course some of the yeasty flavours are still in the malt base too. But the main point is that this is a really, really excellent beer. It fully deserves its rating of 98 on Rate Beer in my opinion. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say this is full bodied. It is actually a little bit lighter, and that's one thing I've always found with Dieu du Ciel. The kind of, maybe it's just the water that they use, but their beers are full of flavour, but they have just that little bit of light quality to them when you drink them. But yeah, you can feel a little bit of that nice light drinkability about this one. It's got a good oily mouthfeel. The carbonation is quite smooth. It does have just a little bit of a prickle, which again is a kind of is a trait, if you like, of Dieu du Ciel. There's a good bit of roasted malty bitterness to this one, which lingers into the aftertaste. It balances well with the sweetness. The hops for me are quite smooth. There is a little bit of bitterness from the earthiness and the more bitter sort of florally elements of the beer, and it's got a little bit of juicy fruitiness as well, a little bit of citrus in there mixing with some red fruits. But overall the mouthfeel is very, very balanced, and there is just a little bit of alcohol warmth in this one from the 9.5%. But the main point of this review is that this is a pretty damn awesome beer. So if you do get a hold of this one, I would recommend that you try it. As I say, it's released as a seasonal every October by Dieu du Ciel, so if you get the chance to try this, I really would recommend that you do. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Been really cool to return to both Dieu du Ciel and Shiga Kogen beer. They both produce some pretty damn awesome stuff. You will see some more Shiga Kogen beer reviews over the next little while I'm here in Japan, so I hope you enjoy those. Dieu du Ciel, of course, we will return to when I go back to Sweden. But thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do go and check out my social media things as well, but most importantly, make sure you check out some of the Shiga Kogen beers and also some of the Dieu du Ciel stuff. Both really damn awesome breweries, and thank you again for your support over the last 3 years. Until the next time, Slanja just now, Kampai, and I will catch you very soon. Cheers.